Let's look at org units. Now, what are org units and why are they important? Well, let's first start by opening a form, and could be any form within CMO, a form or an event. And as you see, the initial screen that you come to when opening a form contains the org unit as a starting point. It is always the first field that you need to select. And let's look at that. Now, in our particular environment, we have a number of different org unit scenarios set up. So you could have a functional org unit set up. So you might have an airline and you divide that up into the crew and the pilot. So that's more functional. Or maybe you're tracking contractors and you have a number of different contract companies. Or maybe it's just you have your corporate, the name of your company, and then you have the various departments under that. Or you could have your operations, and then you have all the different continents where you have operations, and then the different countries, and you could bring it down into cities. So you could do that geographically. So there are a lot of ways to slice and dice. The question you will need to ask when creating org units is how do you want to sort and report on your information? So the way that you put the information in by selecting an org unit will be the way that you will be able to sort and report on that later on. Now you also then, after you select an org unit, you have an entity, and depending on the org unit that you select, there will be different entities or sites or departments, whatever you want to call them, that will be attached to the org units. So it might be a mine site at a contract company. Now let's look at where these are created. To create org units, go to your admin menu, and over on the left-hand side, click on org units. And you'll see here are the org units that we just looked at when we were opening a new form. To create a new one, go up to the top left-hand corner and click on New. The screen opens up where you'll give it a name. Let's create another contract company. So here we have a name, and then the parent, if we look in the parent, you can see that we can put that under one of the other contract companies, so this would be a child of that, or we can put it under the main parent, which is contractors, which is what we want to do. There's also org unit types that we'll talk about momentarily. And you can then also put in address information and phone and such. And simply click the Save button. And we'll see now that under contractors, we now have a new contractor, which is EDF Contractors. We have a message that has been created. So that's how you create an org unit. We see up here too that there are org unit types. Now what are org unit types? Well, it might be a little easier to look at a use case. Let's say that you have these contractors and some maybe are international and some are local. And so you might want to then to be able to sort and report, if you need to sort and report on that type of data, you would need to then create in the background something that the end user would not see, an org unit type. So you would go into org unit types and we can create a new one. And we'll call one of them would be local. And save that, and we'll create another one that would be called international. And then we would go and assign these to our org unit. So we'll go to, for instance, the org unit that we just created, which is EDF Contractors, and we can click on the cogwheel and edit that. And we can see now in the org unit types that there are two. Well, let's say this is a local one. We'll just save that as local, and maybe we go to these other ones and we can make them whatever they are. And in the end, we will then be able to sort and report. And how would we sort and report? Well, if we go back to our event register, this can be used as an ad hoc reporting screen. We can also go to reports and get the same filters. We can see in here that you have org units. We can sort on org units. And so we could sort on, I just want to see, for instance, all of the forms for a certain contractor. And since I just started using org unit types, I would need to go into business rules and turn that filter on, and we could sort on national, international, or local. So again, this is where your sorting and reporting is used. You can come into the event register and look at those, or you can go into the reports, and you have the same filters here, where you can use these same filters and do reporting. And you can do reporting at the parent level, if you will, for all of contractors. Or you can choose individual nodes that you want to report on, and you can report on all. If you can check all or uncheck all, however you want to do that. And now let's take a look at entities. Entities are then tied to org units. So as you remember, when we opened up a new event or form, we chose an org unit and then we chose an entity. Now, the entity is the lowest level of your hierarchy, so to speak. And this would be, in many cases, it's used for the site level or for the department level, whatever you want to call your lowest level. And these are always tied to an org unit. So each record in the system has both an org unit and an entity assignment. And that's very important when you're thinking about your data. And your data always has those two pieces tied to it. So if you're migrating or bringing new data in or changing your org unit structure, these things need to be taken into consideration because both of these pieces of data are attached to every record in the system. So let's look at creating a new entity. So maybe EDF Contractors we want to keep track of and keep records on has two offices. One is in Kalamazoo, and we can save that. We can put a description in here, or we can just save that. And there are other fields if we want to use these other fields. Let's create a second entity, maybe Timbuktu. And these are marked as active. If we stop using them, we don't want to delete them because we could be deleting all the data attached to them. We would instead just deactivate. But this is going to be active, and we'll save that. Let's go to Kalamazoo first, and we'll find it here. You can see in the column of the org units that it is attached to. There are no org units. So let's click on the cogwheel and then click on Assign Entity to Org Unit. And in here, we want to find EDF Contractors. And that would be, it might be assigned to many, and we can assign to many, or we can assign to simply one. So we'll select that, and we'll do the same with Timbuktu. And so we can see now in our list that Timbuktu and Kalamazoo are both assigned to EDF Contractors. And if we go back to our org units, and we go to EDF Contractors, we can see that Kalamazoo and Timbuktu are assigned. And so now, if we were to create a new record for EDF Contractors, go back to Incidents, and we would select the org unit of EDF Contractors, we now see that there are two entities to choose from, Kalamazoo and Timbuktu. Another facet of entities we could talk about are entity types. And we'll notice up at the top of the screen we have the ability to add entity types very much like we had with org unit types. And we could use the same ones if we wanted to here. Instead of with the org units, we might want to put the local or international here. Or maybe we have another designation, another way we want to break down our data for sorting and reporting. So we could, for instance, classify our contractors. So maybe we have the A level and the B level, and we can make these visible or not visible to the end user. And we can then just attach these, and then that just gives us another way of sorting and reporting on our data. That covers the configuration of org units and entities, but we will be looking at in further videos of how this organizational structure is used, for instance, to assign users. Users will be assigned to the hierarchy so that they can only see the parts that they are assigned to. And they could be assigned to particular forms or events, so you can only enter a certain form at a certain org unit or a certain entity. So these can also be used for functional purposes beyond just sorting and reporting. And we'll be looking at those later on.